Do have a quorum. I have not asked the audience what they're here to speak about, but I can guess. And I just hope that we don't get too emotional about it and don't take too much time. Just stand up and express your position one way or the other. And if you've got something unique to offer, certainly welcome you to do that. Item number 4, sir.
Thank you, Mr. President. Item number 4 is subject award of contract government street connection at Ninth Avenue. The recommendation is that City Council award a contract for the construction of the government street connection at Ninth Avenue to Floyd Brothers of Pensacola, Florida, the lowest and most responsible quote in the amount of $77,777.77 plus a 10% contingency. Further, that City Council appropriate $100,000 from local option gasoline tax funded by a transfer from engineering services in FY 2012 for street reconstruction.
Move to approve. Second.
There is a motion and a second. Before we begin discussion on this issue, I'm just anticipating this is what the crowd is out in the audience for. And just so you know that I want everybody that wants to be heard to be heard. And but first I'd like to see everybody that is opposed to this to just rise so we get a sense of what the room's position is. Okay, that's about what I thought. Okay, now thank you. And the reason I wanted to do that is people get up to speak to this issue. The first speakers are likely to go on just a little bit longer than what the others, and I'm asking for it to be that way. If somebody has already said something that you agree with and you still want to speak, is please just come to the mic, state your name and your address, and say, I do not support this. Which sometimes we can get bogged down with having 10 people take up their full time and say exactly the same thing over and over again. I'm just not sure it's real productive. But I do want to hear what your position is on it. So I'm going to open up discussion to the committee members first. There'll be a point where the public will come. Yes. Yes.
We haven't had a discussion. There's a motion on the floor?
Yes.
And are we going to have a discussion before we hear from the
That's what I was just saying, is we're going to have discussion by the committee members first.
Okay.
Yes.
All right.
And so, anyway, when we're well into that discussion there'll be a point where the public is allowed to speak. Again, just come to the mic right there. And in interest of time, too, if there's someone at the mic already, the next speaker should fall in line right behind them. And just try not to clog up the aisleway there too much. All right, who wants to speak first on this? Mr. Spencer.
I might as well come right out of the starting gate first. And certainly I want to share with everyone in the audience that this is democracy in its best form, as we are all here able to share opinions. I want to tell my fellow Committee of the Whole members, this is probably my first exciting time to be at the end of the diving board like this for the diving contest since being elected. And again, I appreciate everyone using the letters, using email, phones, etc., to share their concerns with me. I hope that everyone understands that I am approaching this from the perspective of, I guess, as an architect and an urban planner, also someone that is a resident, a property owner in the district. But most importantly, I hope that this afternoon we are able to move through this and that I can gain the support of fellow committee members, because the more and more I research this, the more I recognize and recall that there was previous action, governmental action at this level that has endorsed the restoration of this grid. And as time goes on, this sort of interrupted pattern, which became more and more a feeling of permanence, obviously is what has resulted in people here protesting any of this, the modification that's before us. But again, I welcome everyone's dialogue. I won't take anything personally, and I ask that you'll do the same for me.
Well, Mr. Spencer, my response to you is this. I do remember taking action, and I do support the extension. However, the previous maps that I've seen showed a traffic circle there, a rotary, and that made complete sense to me. The drawing I saw this past week has this, really your only good option is turning right, and that's not even really a good option, right into that little turn lane right there. It seems somewhat dangerous and not all that productive. And I could easily, and I haven't made up my mind on which way I'm going to support it. I want to listen to my fellow committee members and the public. But to me, it would just make much more sense for that to go into a rotary rather than it's designed right now. I know we're constrained somewhat by funds, but Mr. Reynolds and Mr. Barker are both clever individuals, and I think that if we're committed to doing this and we put the rotary in there, they can find the funds. So I'm not putting you on the spot right now, Mr. Reynolds. That's just my position. It'd be a whole lot easier for me to support it if we had the rotary.
I understand, absolutely.
Okay. All right.
And Mr. President, if I can address that a little bit and talk a little bit about the history we've kind of alluded to. First of all, the funding available for this project, if we were to do a rotary, you're looking at $500,000 or more at least. We don't have that. What we have, and in fact, if you'll remember, although nobody here was currently on the council at the time, but in January of 1989, this issue came up, and at that point, the total amount that was actually estimated to cost to open this up in such a rotary was about $470,000. But the intent was for this to be open as of 1989, and of course, since then, we've had both the historic district plan as well as the CRA plan, both which have adopted the opening of Ninth as well.
But the CRA plan also included the rotary.
That is correct, but the overall goal was to open this particular piece. Now, what we did is that we looked at it, and part of the problem was, frankly, is that we were trying to find a way to do it within the constraints that we had, and the rotary seemed to be the idea. The problem that we have at this point, though, is more than just a funding problem. It's also a design problem when it comes to the rotary. There's simply not enough space to put the rotary there. We would actually have to push out into the bay a degree in order to have enough space to put a rotary in there. But probably the bigger issue is that when we were designing this particular right in, right out, and that's exactly what it is, which is the safe way to do this, and also, frankly, really cuts down on any traffic that would come in there. It makes it a design that would be for individuals that actually have some business in that particular area. Because if you're coming down Ninth and you go in and your right turn in, which is the only way you can come in from Ninth, you can't come off Bay and turn in, for example. You can only come in from Ninth. If, for example, I used to take that route to work every day, and I would come down Ninth, and then I would take a right on Bayfront, it would make no sense for me if I was coming to City Hall or anywhere else that wasn't in the particular neighborhood to go down that road. And the reason for that is because it's not quicker for me to do that. So we had that that was part of our concern, was keeping the traffic counts in mind as well as safety. And that's how we came up with the right in and right out.
Well, the right in makes sense. The right out is really the heartache that I have with the current plan. Okay.
And again, that will cut down on the traffic as well, because if you think about it, if you're doing the right out, you're coming from this way, and you're going to go right out, and then you're going to head back that way. So essentially, it doesn't make sense then to do that unless you have a reason to do that.
Okay.
In other words, it's not going to be, and it's not designed for individuals to use as shortcuts or any other manners.
I understand. Thank you for that explanation. Anyone else on committee? Ms. Myers.
I'm going to withhold most of my comments until I hear from the public. But I have a number of concerns I'll address at this point. One is the email I received this afternoon, or this morning, from Mr. Reynolds, which is just 3 sentences. I'll read it real quick. Well, the last sentence. You sent a copy of what appears to be a architectural rendering of the rotary concept. And it says here in the email, it says the 2010 CRA plan recommends this connection by text reference to the historic district master plan and in graphics. I'm just wondering if this isn't an issue that should be before the CRA rather than the city council at this point. Let me ask our CRA chairman.
You have a CRA plan out there that specifically calls for opening this particular roadway, and that is what we're attempting to do here.
Well, I'm kind of thinking this should have come before the CRA. Yes.
I'll address that just briefly. The council is actually the one who approves the CRA master plan. The CRA's job is really to spend the money, and this money is not coming from the CRA, and therefore the council is welcome to spend money in the CRA as much as they want, and the CRA should welcome that, and if we can say it sort of goes along with the CRA plan. I'm just clarifying. I think it is appropriate to come to the council because this is city dollars, not CRA dollars that we're
Okay, well, I was just wondering about that sentence. The second thing is, has there been a traffic study done to support the recommendation that's being made today?
Mr. Garza?
Good afternoon. Councilwoman Myers, with regard to the reopening of Government Street at Ninth Avenue, no, we haven't studied it, but we know the traffic volumes, and from a personal knowledge of the area, we know that south end of Ninth Avenue's got a very low traffic flow. We know that the east end of Government Street's got a very low traffic flow. And as Mr. Reynolds mentioned, the proposed connection will not facilitate through traffic, will only be a benefit to local traffic. So we see no problem with making this type connection at that location.
Okay. Well, why is it being? Why is this recommendation being made? Do we have a problem at this time with the way it is now?
The issue has always been to try to reconnect Government Street to Ninth Avenue in the Bayfront location. Of course, the ideal situation was the proposed roundabout, but as Mr. Reynolds mentioned, we do have an issue with having adequate property for that roundabout. We also have an issue with Bayfront Parkway being a state road and a 4-lane highway. It's kind of hard to make a 4-lane road merge with a 2-lane road in a roundabout scenario. So we developed a concept for a roundabout, but it called for the 2-laning of Bayfront Parkway and kind of taking Bayfront up and diverting it to the north a little bit to create the land necessary to do that, and to also bring the adjacent roadways in radial to the roundabout. The Gingeros plan kind of showed an oval in their arrangement, and it's difficult to make an oval work for a roundabout, in that you really need to have incoming traffic come in radially to really have the calming effect. If they come in more on a tangent, then it becomes more of just a chicane where people will like to do the drive. But
well, how is this going to improve? What's it designed to? I know it says to improve the flow of traffic.
It's just going to enhance local traffic in that southeast quadrant of the historic district. Instead of having to go into the middle of the district go to the perimeter and come back out the same way, you'll be able to enter in that southeast quadrant.
Okay, well, I'm eager to hear from the people who are going to be most impacted by this. I don't know if there was a community meeting prior to this to discuss this and get input from people who are going to be most impacted, so I'll withhold any other questions that I have until I hear from the public.
Quick question. Do we have a map that we could put up there so we can look at it and see what we're talking about? No map? Where does she take it, to the clerk or?
Hand that to
I mean, for
Chris.
everybody, because I'm sitting here and I'm listening, but
You finished, Mr. Gerald? Anybody else from the committee? Okay, first person would like to come from this side and speak. Please give your name and address.
Hi, my name is David Dodson. I've been a developer and a planner down in the historical district since about 1967, thereabouts. And 32 years ago, we were at the same place that we are now. 2 days' notice at best for the closing or opening of Government Street. Back in 1980, we had 95% of the people on Government Street wanted to keep at least a right-in. At that time, it took commercial monies to restore these buildings. Now, 30 years later, it's a residential neighborhood. And so my point being, back in 1980, because of the decisions that were hastily made without people's input, we lost 30 to 35% of the buildings in the historical district. 32 years later, I don't see why it is a rush without the input of the neighborhood, without an open process, that we need to rush through this because we don't know what the ramifications are going to be. If you had said, 32 years ago, we're going to lose 35% of our historical buildings, I think they would have gone and allowed a right-in. Today, I'm not sure if I'm for the right-in. I'm definitely not for the right-out. And so I'd ask the council to table this until a thorough investigation with the people's input, the people of the neighborhood. I hear about the CRA. I never get notices from CRA. I never get notices from DIB. What those boards do, they do almost in a vacuum. The people are not included in those decisions. So I ask that we delay this and have an open discussion, and then when the decisions are made, I think you'd have a better consensus. Thank you.
Let me ask you a question.
Mr. Dodson.
You have a question for him?
Yeah, well, are you stating that you did not have an input, they did not have any?
Zero, and I have a residential property. It's vacant, but I intend to build on it one day within about 100, maybe 120 feet of that intersection, and I was never, ever notified.
Thank you. Yes, sir.
Thank you, Councilman. I speak against this. I'm Stan Tarter. I live in Pensacola, and I work part-time at 537 East Government Street. I'm very disappointed we haven't got any information as to the traffic impact. The only reason I see that the opening would do any good would be provide better communication from the south end of Ninth Avenue into the city and out of the city. Now, we already got good communication that we are because Romana exits on Ninth Avenue and goes all the way through the city. And just to the south of Government Street, Bayview Parkway Bayfront Parkway has access from Ninth Avenue all the way into the city. So I don't think it's a necessary expense. I say it's an awful cheap expense. So I think if we're going to do a job, do it right. And this is not the way to solve the problem. I think the problem is would be greater, resulting have the historical area almost destroyed by having this main artery of Government Street going directly into Ninth Avenue. I think the city should be dedicated to improve and give incentive for development and improvement of the historical district, not to decrease the incentive for investment and improvement. I have sent the chairman of the board here and the mayor my full report, so it'll go too long. I don't have enough time to do that. So I don't know why we should spend money at this time for a problem that doesn't exist. My main concern is the way this problem is addressed is it's going to create more traffic problems than it solves. Because as you see from the engineering drawing, going east on Government Street, you can only turn right, and then you must turn right and go back in the opposite direction on Bayfront. Furthermore, those people coming in from Gulf Breeze onto Ninth Avenue cannot turn into Government Street. But I think this would create a lot of problem in terms of traffic hazard too, because there's going to be all kinds of cowboys that want to make a turn across yellow lanes because they can't get in, they don't know, they come down and they come at the end of East Government Street, and all they can go is go right and then back in the opposite direction on Government Street. And my main concern is there's going to be collateral damage in the historical district. There'll be less incentive for people to live there, to improve it. We've had 4 or 5 decades of trying to improve. This is really the pearl of downtown Pensacola, is that area. And we do need something to show that it's improving the district, not making it like the shabby condition it was when we first involved ourselves to improve it. Now, it's also been talked that the city has considered this. When the Bayfront Parkway was first put in, it was decided to make the cul-de-sac at the end of Government Street. Also, in 2004, a master plan was paid for, and was very expensive. As many aspects of that report. One of them was this should not be open unless it's done right, and this is not the way to do it at this time. And another thing is the city should have make encouragement for investments down there. This will destroy encouragement of increasing that east end of Government Street by making it into an artery runway. Thank you very much.
Was that Mr. Tarter?
Tarter, T-A-R-T-E-R.
All right, thank you.
Yeah, I had want to just respond a little bit to that. One of the things I do like about opening this up is that it will increase accessibility to the historic district. Remember several years ago when we first started talking about the pond that is over at Admiral Mason Park now being put in, there was 2 homeowners associations that met, I think it was with Mr. David Bailey, and one of the residents there was thought the pond would be a very nice idea, but for the fact that it would attract more tourists into that area and thus clogging up the historic district. Well, I didn't have a problem with that at first until I found out that I'm a tourist. Tourist was anybody that lived north of Chase Street, and so it is a pearl. It's a real jewel in downtown. But to enjoy that Jewel, you need to increase the accessibility too. And I think one of the purposes of this is not so much the automobile traffic, but to increase the pedestrian traffic down there as well. But I thank you for your remarks, sir.
Any questions?
Yeah.
No,
Yes, sir.
I'll reserve, I think, just so everyone in the audience knows, typically we as committee members are reserved to, restricted to 2 comments.
Two, yeah.
So I've got to save my second one for the crescendo, but I'm taking notes.
In conclusion, I respectfully request this board to either table this for further study, which I think very definitely needs, or reject it, which is only a halfway of even thinking about solving the problem.
Okay. Thank you, sir. Yes, sir.
Council members, how are you?
Very
My
well.
name is Charles Milkey, and my wife and I reside at 624 East Government Street, right next to Overgroup and right across the street from Kerrigan, Estes, Franklin, and McLeod. And we are opposed to this, and pretty much for the reasons that the safety issues, which we've discussed, because when you bring people in there and they block off Seville Square, it only feeds the traffic back into Aragon Park. And I have seen motorcycles cut across those pilings that we have there out onto Ninth Avenue, accident waiting to happen. You're talking about a traffic flow pattern, somebody coming down Ninth Avenue, might have had one too many, decides to make the right turn thinking they're going on the Bayfront, and they hook a right turn straight across into Kerrigan's place. Children on our street riding bicycles are going to be affected. We have people, there's other ways to look at this, I think. If at the time they were building the park, they blocked off Romano Street. Nobody really had a problem with it because all the neighborhood didn't have a problem with it. It's just people that were going into the neighborhood. So if we made some sort of entrance at each one of those, Romano and I can't remember the cross street, Romano and Government Street, saying you are entering a dead-end community, giving them fair warning, saying, hey, we could spend that $77,000 on electricity to light them signs for the next 40 years to tell people you're going down a dead-end area, there's no outlet, you know. But we understand the traffic pattern and the traffic problems down there. My wife and I purchased that property, which overlooking the bay. It's a beautiful area to live in. Our neighborhood is beautiful. We enjoy the cul-de-sac. That's one of the reasons that we bought it. I'm not opposed to opening it up if it's done correctly, like a roundabout. But it needs to be safe. You're feeding one lane on a right-hand turn into two lanes of oncoming traffic and one coming onto it behind that. That's not safe. And if somebody misses that turn, it's even worse. Or if somebody decides to try to hop across and get out onto Bayfront Parkway, like I saw the motorcycle do or a couple cars do, there's going to be somebody killed. And I don't want to have to. See, I'm right at the foot of that. So I'll be the one that's waking up at night when I hear the crash and be the first one on the scene trying to help somebody. I can't sleep with that. And I don't know if y'all will be able to sleep with that. God, I hope not. We need to get this looked at and studied, very much so. Thank you.
All right. Thank you, sir. Next.
His name again, I'm sorry, I didn't catch his name.
I'm sorry, sir.
Charles Milkey.
Milkey. Yes.
I'm Rosemary Bonifay. I live at 622 East Government Street. I've lived there a little over 10 years. It's a nice place to live. I don't think it will be too nice when this happens. Everyone, as someone said, was encouraged to move down there, build houses, improve that area, and, as Mr. Hall said, to increase pedestrian traffic down there. At the present time, we don't have sidewalks along that street, so everybody walks in the street. It's going to be a little difficult when that street's opened up for us to walk in the street. There are a lot of festivals down there. Government Street is closed. Is that going to be continued? Are people going to know when it's open and when it's not open to the public? There are a lot of runners that use that area down there, organized runners and races, as well as just the public. Are they going to close government for that, as they always have? Or is that just going to be a big, we'll handle it when it happens? I think Mr. Tarter and Mr. Milkey have covered most of the other things. I'm adamantly against it. I paid over $40,000 in taxes since I've lived there, just in property taxes. I do think it should be studied. I do think it should be tabled for the present.
Before you sit down, Mr. Spencer, do you have her name?
I do.
Okay.
Thank you.
Okay, all right, thank you.
I spoke to Mr. Spencer and to Megan
Right.
about this. Thank you.
Okay, thank you.
Hello, everyone. I'm Amber Rushing. My husband and I recently purchased a house at 536 East Government, actually just 14 days before the news of this connection was announced. Many residents of Pensacola don't fully understand why the access between Government and Ninth was originally closed. The theory that the state had in 1980's closure was based off of UC Berkeley professor of urban development study. He actually published a book called Livable Streets, where he gathered data from areas that have low, medium, and high traffic content. He found that the low traffic areas had a better sense of community, space, and well-being. He found a direct correlation between happiness and traffic. Very simply, people living on city streets are less happy and more socially cut off as the flow of traffic increases. He also found that neighborhoods with a grid pattern had a decrease of social networking and street playing. Many gridded neighborhoods were dead-ended during the early 80s, specifically to improve the street's social environment. East Government Street is a perfect example of the truth in his research. The new grid plan undoes exactly what the dead-end plan did perfectly. The increase in litter and cigarette butts in a historically zoned area, noise pollution, air pollution, light pollution, dust, the loss of a neighborhood atmosphere, and the danger the traffic poses to the residents will surely decrease all of our property values in a time when we're all struggling to increase or maintain our property's worth. When Ninth Avenue was shut down for the second time in under a year in 2011, Romana Street was blocked off to impede higher traffic volumes in their neighborhood. By doing so, the city of Pensacola admits that increased traffic volume is a hazard to its citizens. Romana has always been a thoroughfare to downtown, and Government Street has been closed to through traffic since before a house was even built. The houses on Government, many of which are historic, are directly on the road with little or no yard to protect them from reckless drivers. Whereas Romana has a large archway entrance and gardens to symbolize to motorists that they are in a neighborhood, a roundabout to slow traffic flow, and a large park on the north side of the street that will slow runaway vehicles before striking a home. If the plan is to go through, it is only fair that the historic Seville neighborhood be treated equally as the Aragon neighborhood. If there is not funding to complete the project properly, I believe it should not be done at all. Thank you for your consideration.
Okay, thank you. Next speaker, please.
Lawrence Pede, 605 East Government Street.
How do you spell your last name, sir?
P-E-D-E.
Okay, thank you.
I had heard about the project, and when I heard about it, it was going to be a roundabout. Having traveled for many years in Europe, I know that roundabouts slow traffic. The way this is designed, I don't see it slowing traffic at all. I see traffic coming onto Government Street at high speed. And I know that the street engineer, I guess it was, said there's no traffic study, but I would like to know what will happen when the ballpark opens, because I can see people coming down and taking the shortcut rather than going on Bayfront and saying, oh, here's another way I can get to the ball field. And it may affect the traffic flow greatly on Government Street. So I would like to see more study done before this is approved. Thank you.
Okay, thank you, sir. Next, please.
Yes, I'm Kim Camp. I've lived on Government Street at 537 for going on 15 years. Was that correct that you all didn't know about this? And we didn't either. Looking at, it needs to be studied. One thing needs to be studied, the cars that come down there now, they come, since they closed at the ballpark for a while, people are coming down Government quite a bit because I guess they don't want to go back to Bayfront and they don't know where they are, so they're wanting to just cut through. They come down there all the time and hit the dead end and turn around. You need to put one of those things across the road to see how many people do that. And I can't imagine that many people, they'll even be even madder when they get down there and have to go right and back around the block. It needs to be looked at and talk to us, because I'm there all the time. And Why was Romana blocked off? When was that so it wouldn't decrease, but you want to increase our traffic, but you didn't want to increase the Romana traffic? I'm confused on that too. I'm not sure who this is going to benefit, and I wouldn't have bought there if there had been traffic. And I have loved it there a long time. I do wish that it would be fixed up. Down at the end, it's an eyesore. We all saw that picture in the plan in '04. It's just it needs some plants, trees, some palm trees, something. And you need to see what's going on. These trucks come down. I bet just yesterday I saw 4 18-wheelers come down to that dead end. 4. One was a large gas truck. And then they have to back up. And then they have to go down to the clock. What are they going to do when they have to turn right? Why are they coming down there? And how come nobody knows it's a dead end? If you go 2 blocks down and you're walking or driving, you don't even see the dead end sign. You don't see the dead end sign till you're passing it. And do it. Please drive down there and look for that dead end sign. Just do that when you get off work today. I don't understand that. And I don't know what you can do about it, but you could study it and see how you can do that. And then decide how you're going to get, how is it going to impact us? I would like to know. Anyway, that's all.
Okay, thank you. Hi.
Hi, I'm Virginia Wilson. I live at 529 East Government. I'm nervous.
Can you pull the microphone down just a little bit?
Yeah, I'm short, aren't I? Okay, Kim Camp and I went around the neighborhood and got signatures for a petition. And the petition says, I am a property owner in the downtown Pensacola neighborhood, and I am opposed to opening East Government Street and Ninth Avenue. So I have I have 61 signatures. These signatures represent people on Intendencia, Savalas, Government, Zaragoza, Crown Cove, in other words, our entire neighborhood. And these people are not just residence owners. They are lawyers. They are restaurants owners. They are realtors. So they're all sorts of people. And I would like to present this to you so that you can look at it. It does have their name, their email addresses, their signature, and they're all real people.
If you'd give that to the clerk, please.
Yes,
thank you. Right over here. Yes.
That's for question.
And Dr. Pratt has a question for you, ma'am.
Once you get back to the microphone, but I was wondering, in going around, you're our best survey method right now. Did you have people who said, no, I don't want to sign that?
What they said to me was that they weren't sure of it because they didn't have all the information. So I told them I respected that. I tried to explain to them. I did have the drawing, and I had some information about why the road was closed in the beginning, and but they were a little reserved about it. They wanted to find out more information, and I think that's why you should wait to make a decision on this, because everyone wants to know what is the reason you want to open this road. I think some of the people had a great idea. Instead of, as Kim said, instead of opening it, let's make it more attractive on the end, where there's like an entrance to historic Pensacola. And maybe at the end have, one of my neighbors said, and I thought it was a great idea, and I think he probably will come up here and tell you about it. But, you know, just make it more attractive on the end. And so when you're driving down Bayfront, you're not seeing those ugly posts up there. maybe some planting, some pavers that introduce you over to the to Admiral Mason Park. And maybe we could have a pelican there, and he's Admiral Mason Pelican or something, you know, and just make it more interesting and attractive. And I think you would get people to walk down there and walk across. But the way you've designed this, it's dangerous. You aren't going to walk past through there. I won't be able to walk through there with my dog. And now I can get across there. But with all of these, are you going to have yields? Are you going to have stop signs? What are you going to have there? It just doesn't make sense the way it is. And even a roundabout would not be easy for people to walk around there. So you're actually stopping pedestrians. You're not helping the pedestrians. And so that's how I see it. So thank you for your time. Do you have any other questions for me? No?
Okay. Thank you, ma'am.
Okay, thank you.
Okay.
I did have one more thing. I had 3 people say they didn't want to sign it, and they were down going into Aragon, and they said that the last thing they want it to open up so that they would have less traffic. They want all the traffic to go down our way. So those were the people that wouldn't sign it, and so I just quit going that direction.
Okay. All right.
My name is Buck Mitchell. I'm with Seville Quarter on 130 East Government Street. I do see a lot of my good customers and a lot of my great friends over here. I will tell you, we kind of joked about it the other day. I called my dad, who back in 1980, he and Bob Snow were big proponents of it not closing and the reopening of it. So I called him. I said, hey, the mayor's office is implementing your plan from 32 years ago. We as a business would like to see it open. We have a beautiful new building that we're trying to find tenants for across the street from Seville, and we've had 2 major operations look at the building and decline on it because of it being on a road that has a dead end. I do understand it probably needs to be tabled a little bit more. I lived also on Crown Cove, which is exactly at that area about 20 years ago before I was married. Government Street and all of the downtown Seville area is a wonderful pedestrian zone, walking, milling around, but we're also a business district, and we do need to have the closing of it and the opening of it. I do like the right-hand turn because when they leave Seville, they can turn right back around and come right back to me. So I'm not real sure about the right-hand turn. It is a very new project. I have never seen a map other than 2 seconds ago, so I don't know if the public has been informed on it enough. I do respect all of my good friends that live in the Seville area, but we do think that from a business point of view, the outside people that are coming to do business in Pensacola, especially on that area of Government Street, have looked at it and have declined to do business with us because of that being a closed area. So I'm not sure if we're exactly 100% for it or 100% against it, but want to make sure that we get heard, and thank you very much for considering it. Thanks.
Okay, thank you.
Good afternoon, council members. I'm Joan Smith. I live at 532 East Government Street, and I had the wonderful privilege, I'm a native Pensacolian, and I had the wonderful privilege of purchasing one of our historic homes built in the 1800s. It's the Hendricks House. With some of those homes have a side driveway, and my friends would kind of tease me like, Joan, what are you going to do when you're going to get your groceries? You have on-street parking, which is public parking, which means I have no guaranteed place to park my car and to access my home. It is one of the wonderful little shotgun homes downtown. My question is, when this change comes about, I haven't heard anything mentioned about the speed limit and how that would be enforced. Again, as you've heard from many of our neighbors here, it's very much a pedestrian community. A lot of street activity, visiting and walking in sidewalks, and as well as the visitors that come in the area and venture, and the bed and breakfasts that come down. But can you share with me what the speed limit, or proposed speed limit is for that area?
Well, I'm sure it wouldn't be more than 25, and we could even make it less than that. One of the things that you do have going for you on that street, and this shocked me when we got into a street repaving discussion one year. A lot of the streets that were up for repaving were in North Hill, and they like having the asphalt that is torn up with the brick and the potholes because it does calm traffic through there, regardless of what the posted speed limit is.
Yeah.
It's impossible to drive through there
Natural
quickly.
speed.
The other thing, and I used to wonder about this, being an old country boy, non-urban dweller, why people would want to park on the street when they have a driveway. And I found out one of the reasons is the street parking is a natural calming mechanism for traffic as well. So I'm not advocating for or against this project right now, but some of those concerns I don't think you would actually experience down there.
Well, I was just saying, because you're getting in and out of your car, and depending on the speed limit there and the safety factors, I was just wondering if there was a speed limit. And then also, because we do have a lot of large trucks, you said that the tankers and the others, would that be restricted in the area? Would there be no commercial vehicle or large?
Mr. Reynolds.
The answer to that question is yes.
Okay. Right. Thank you very much.
Okay. Thank you. Yes.
I would just like to say that the chairman's, the president's remarks regarding the speed limit, even if it were 25 miles an hour, is purely speculative. We don't have any details on this project. And I will tell you 25 mile an hour speed limits are very, very difficult to enforce. So what all of this is pointing out to me is that we know very, very little about this project from the questions people are asking. Go ahead.
Mr. Homiak.
Thank you, Council. Jim Homiak, 3664 Pickens Road, Pensacola Beach. I'm a local business owner downtown, and I wanted to come out and voice my support for opening up Ninth Avenue to government, primarily because I think overall it's good for downtown Pensacola and the redevelopment of downtown Pensacola, both on a commercial aspect as well as residential. But also I have, I think, kind of a long time unique perspective on Government Street. My dad used to own a little one-story shack at 630 East Government that now is the two-story office building across from Kerrigan, and suffered a long time in trying to get that property leased because of the closure of Government Street for the same reasons that were discussed here earlier by Mr. Mitchell. I also owned one of the lots at Crown Point at one point in time and had a three-story building design where I was going to have a downstairs commercial and 2 stories residential up above. And of course, I would have wanted it to have been open at that point in time. I lived at 431, I think it was, Zaragoza Street back 20 years ago. So I've been a resident of downtown Pensacola for close to 6 years and would have liked for it to have been open then. And I currently have my office on Zaragoza Street about a block and a half away and would like to have it opened for that reason also. But I came here today to support the reopening without studying or seeing the design. And I remember saying to myself on the way down here, I said, how are they going to do this? Obviously, I think the roundabout is probably the best solution. I think it's a good long-term solution, and I hope we can figure out a way to make that work both with the dollars and find the land to do it, because I think it does have a calming effect on Bayfront Parkway, and we need to have that for all residential walking up and down that area. That needs to happen. We need to find those funds and try to make that happen. But I did share concern with these folks who lived on Government Street that, we're going to open this thing up and what is going to happen with the traffic and how bad is it going to get? Well, after seeing the design today, I don't think it's going to get all that bad. I mean, number one, I won't use the Government Street exit to go home. I live out on Pensacola Beach. So I'm not going to go out and turn right to go to Seville, at least not all the time. But I will use it when I'm coming down Ninth Avenue to return to my office. But then again, I won't use it coming in from my house in the morning. So I think it's a benefit. I think we need it. I think we need to reconnect this part of downtown Pensacola to the eastern entrance, but I kind of like the way it's being done. It's a good first step. And hopefully over time, again, I think there's probably a better plan that needs to take place, and I hope that is the roundabout. That's what's proposed in the overall CR plan. That's what we need to get to. But I think this is a good first step. I think it reconnects downtown Pensacola, and I support it. Thank you.
Okay. Thank you, Mr. Chomiak. You know, I want to ask for us to have one more person speak in the negative, one more speak in the pro, and then give council a chance to discuss this among ourselves, and may open it back up to the public after that. But you've given us a lot to digest, and so one more that's anti, please.
My name's Camille Barr. Camille Barr 73, according to the newspaper this last week. And I am 73, y'all. I've owned property on Crown Cove since the late 70s, and I've lived downtown for 14 years. I agree with everything in the anti-department that everybody has said 100%, with the exception of the roundabout. I think I could approve it if we had a roundabout somewhere. We already have some clear-cut examples to go by if we would just look at it. The end of Government Street and our brand-new beautiful park could easily be the cemetery with the cars running across down Garden Street and running into the cemetery. And a car could wind up in the pond. Is that right? I mean, it's right there. If somebody runs Government, goes down across Ninth Avenue, they could wind up in our brand-new park. There is not even one full block that would separate where you would make the right-hand turn onto the Bayfront Parkway. The only thing that's there is Kerrigan, Estes, and Rankin parking lot. It's not even a full city block. So when you bring traffic to turn and exit out of Government Street going to the right, you're going to be basically cutting out, I don't know how it would be built, but you're going to have such a small area to make that turn. And the other thing, if we think in this town that we are going to be able to monitor traffic and speed, we have another thought coming. It ain't gonna happen. Not now, not back then, and not in the future. All you have to do is look at the Bayfront Parkway, which Brian and I have finally named the Bayfront Speedway, because that's what it is. And if you don't believe it, come sit on my deck facing the Bayfront any night of the week, but most especially on Friday and Saturday. We don't have a safe place to go with this. It's as simple as that. I don't know how this idea came up to do this, but when we talked about it, when I was investigating just a place to ride my bike downtown, we talked about a roundabout. And now if the roundabout idea is dead, I mean, y'all just can't do this. You just can't do it.
Thank you, ma'am. I need to hear from one pro. Yes, sir.
My name is Bob Burgee, and I've owned a piece of property on the 600 block of East Government Street for about 2 years. It's a mixed-use property, so I think I can almost speak for both sides. But I guess what shocks me, and even as people stand up here and say they haven't really seen the diagrams, the mapping, or the configurations yet, is what was come up with. And as you're traveling eastbound on Government Street, and I've spent some time at the end of Government Street. You know, when you buy a place, you want to spend some time there, and everybody that drives down that street goes to the dead end and turns around. And I mean, big trucks, little vehicles, and you know, when you think about it, it's a very, very wide street. To be right in the core of of our MSA, and to be dead-ended, as you're heading, you can see the water as you're, 2 blocks west of there. And I guess my concern is that with the diagram, the way I look at it, as you turn to the right there, people are going to be leaving Seville, but, and they're going to want to get right on Bayview, or excuse me, Bayfront, and take a left, and you can't. But they're going to. Traveling westbound on Bayfront, try and stay with me. Traveling westbound on Bayfront, you can only go north on Ninth Avenue. And it makes no sense. If I were traveling west on Bayfront, I would get off at Romana, where I've got choices. This way you only go north. And the only turn you would make is left into that retention pond area right before you get to Aragon, or right into something else. I don't think there's actually anything else. Actually, Admiral Mason Park is there now. So it makes no sense to have that right turn coming off Bayfront and going north on 9th Avenue. I support the roundabout. I know we can figure out a way to do that. If you've got to have a sort of a northern hitch in Bayfront at the end there, and then have it continuing, but I understand on the south side, there's not a lot of land, and that makes sense. Gindraws, when he was here a couple years ago, never understood how you can have a 4-lane highway turn into a 2-lane road right in the middle of the urban core. It still doesn't make any sense. I also want to say that I read a lot of comments online from folks on Bayfront Parkway, and I guess I'm surprised nobody stood up from Bayfront Parkway, where they call it Bayfront Speedway. They're very much in support of the roundabout because it slows everyone down. And anyway, I think it needs to be looked at. I think $77,000 awarded to somebody to do what we've come up with so far, I just don't think that makes a lot of sense. Anyway, but I am in support of opening it up.
Okay, thank you, sir. If you have something new to add, please.
I think I do. And I raced over here from jury duty.
Okay.
So I want to have, and I'm going to serve on a jury tomorrow. So my name is Wendy Labarge. I live at 227 East Intendencia. I signed the petition, although I am not a property owner. I have lived in my neighborhood for 4 years, ever since moving here from California, and I got other neighbors to sign this petition as well. And obviously I'm going to jury duty. I'm a contributing member of my community in the city, regardless of blissfully not having a mortgage. So thank you for letting me have this say. I talked with a lot of my neighbors, and regardless of whether they were against opening government or for opening Government Street, the overwhelming consensus is this is just a really bad plan. This diagram where you can only go one way back in the direction you just came on Bayfront Parkway and only one way in from 9th Avenue, it's dangerous. It's very, very dangerous. We see what happens at Garden and Alkanies. We've had 2 big accidents in the last few weeks, gone right through the cemetery. It's going to happen there, especially with the patrons from the Seville Quarter racing down that street. Now, at least maybe they would have a wreck at the end of the thing, but no, they're going to go straight off and they're going to cause problems. When they take a right on Bayfront, they're going to be making U-turns in the middle of Bayfront Parkway at all hours of the day. They're also going to try and skirt that one-way 9th to get around the other way to go to 9th. It's a bad, unsafe, dangerous plan, and you should think very, very seriously about passing that. But the alternative and new that I would like to propose, and I understand the business owners, and we're going to get dragged kicking and screaming into more traffic into our neighborhoods, and that's just going to be inevitable. But if you want to bring traffic, you could look at the dead end at Saragossa and Bayfront Parkway, right by the Barclay House. There's a dead end there. There's a lot of people that come in and out for the Barclay House. You could put a light at Bayfront Parkway right there, have traffic come in and out from all directions, and put a light there which would stop traffic as it's coming into where all the festivals and the parks are, and it would just signal to everybody we're now getting into the downtown core, we've got to slow down, and you would allow people who are in the historic district to go this way on Bayfront Parkway, to go that way on Bayfront Parkway, and from there they can go on 9th Avenue up north if they want. They can go in any direction. And the guy who's got the office on Saragossa, the business owner, I'm sure he'll love that. He won't have any problem getting out to Bayfront. And that's the alternative. I think it's a good one. I think you should think about it.
I can see you being jury foreman. Now, for people that may feel cheated about the opportunity to speak, let me just explain to you our process here. That this will go one of several ways. It will vote to table it, which is essentially voting to kill it, or we will send it back to Mr. Reynolds and the mayor with very specific things that we want done, and give them an opportunity to find a way to do that if they so desire, and then bring it back to us, in which case you would have another chance to speak to that too. But if it got tabled, there's really kind of moot point in listening to more. Or it's going to pass. But it will pass. I have no idea what the vote would be, but it would pass with a non-unanimous vote. I can guarantee you that. And so that means that on Thursday night, rather than this being part of the consent agenda, it'd be a separate committee item that we would vote on, and you'd have the opportunity to address it then. So I just ask for your patience in that and allow council to speak. And Mr. Spencer, you want to reserve your time, or do you want to go now?
I want to...
And I'm going to tell you what, if you need to speak again later, I will ask consent of council to give you a third chance.
Well,
He got about 5 papers over there. He shouldn't have 2 minutes.
Well, I want to, Mr. President, I want to ask you if I have the opportunity to withdraw the motion and...
Well, you always...
And yeah, and then but then may I also be the maker of the substitute motion after we vote on the...
Sure.
Okay.
Okay.
I would like to withdraw my motion.
Okay. Okay, so you withdrew your motion, and...
We have a second.
And a second. Well, okay.
Once it's withdrawn, it doesn't need to...
Yeah.
Then I can do my substitute motion.
Right. Okay.
And then I can do my substitute motion.
Go ahead. Well, I don't think we have to vote on that. Mr. Parliamentarian?
Yeah, press on.
Okay, press on. Okay.
All right. I would like to make a motion that we send this back to Mr. Reynolds, and with the directive that we schedule a workshop with interested, not necessarily affected, interested property owners, residents, business owners, etc. I know that we may have 61 plus attendees.
Okay.
Second.
There's a motion and a second. Discussion?
discussion.
Okay. Mr. Gerald.
One question. If it's coming back, I'd like to know if there's an opportunity for a different design. If we've, if we've researched all of the design models that may come forward, and if that could be a part of what staff will be looking at as well.
Mr. Reynolds.
Thank you, Mr. President. Thank you, Councilman Geralds, for that question. I think it's suffice to say that we've exhausted all options with this particular, because of the configuration of what you see at that intersection, and I have to add that FDOT has looked at this very closely and has blessed it as well. It's even, as we've already talked about, even a roundabout, absent adding land at the south end of the intersection is extremely problematic, to say the least.
Okay. And I've got Dr. Pratt, Dr. Wu, then Ms. Myers.
And then I want to talk.
And the maker of the motion always has the opportunity to respond after each person. You have something to say.
Sure. This is going to be my swan song. You ready for the long one?
No.
Okay.
No. But as the maker of the motion, if you wanted to respond to something Mr. Geralds or Mr. Reynolds said, you can do that. Just keep it brief, and then you can do your swan song later.
I certainly appreciate Mr. Reynolds saying that, that he feels that they have exhausted all solutions, and I just want to remind him that as an architect that sometimes I feel like my back's against the wall with designing just about every solution I think is possible. Then I have had the light bulb experience of finding a new solution.
Okay, Dr. Pratt.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. First off, I think that originally it should have gone to at least a notification of the neighborhood association so that they could have been included in the discussion. So I'm not opposed to the general idea of asking them now, but I do feel like we sort of have heard what will likely come out of that meeting, and then I guess Mr. Reynolds would get to reserve the option of not bringing it back if it clearly does not is not well accepted. But at this point, based on what I've heard today and my thoughts, I don't think that we're going to get anywhere with them going to a neighborhood meeting and then trying to come back, because I think we've heard the general feeling of the neighborhood. And I just want to talk about what my reaction to this. You know, I enjoyed, the Gindros plan happened right about when I moved back to town, and I enjoyed the energy that was put into that. And the overriding theme I saw in the Gindros plan regarding this opening here and Bayfront Parkway in general was how to calm traffic on Bayfront. That was goal number one, I thought, at least for that section. And as part of that, the reason to calm the traffic was to increase the pedestrian access to the waterfront and let us enjoy our greatest asset. And as a subcomponent of that was also remove dead-end streets, because the more options people have, the less they are driving on superhighways. But in looking at this plan, I don't see that it's calming Bayfront. It's not really acting on Bayfront in any way. I don't see it increasing pedestrian access. While I applaud the idea of putting another sidewalk on that side, if we put a sidewalk on that side and didn't open the street, that would be better pedestrian access than opening a street, because then the pedestrians wouldn't have to cross another street. And then it doesn't really reopen the grid, I don't think. I mean, I guess I'm probably the one who would have the most experience driving in that area of the council, and I don't see myself ever taking government when I could instead of Bayfront. You know, when I make the decision to come to council meetings, it's, well, Bayfront will be faster because I don't have to stop. And so I don't see it taking any load off of Bayfront, and probably not much of a load off of Romana Street either, because Romana connects clearly to Bayfront. And so I don't see it benefiting even the people in Aragon who didn't want to sign the petition. I think that they'll still have pretty much the same load. We'll have the same load on Bayfront, and it will solely benefit a small area on Government Street. And so I don't see this as a benefit to the downtown, meeting the goals that we were trying to address with that CRA plan. And as one of the speakers mentioned, the idea, if our goal is to increase pedestrian access, calm Bayfront, and remove dead-end streets, there are plenty of other dead-end streets there that might be able to address that. And so I, at this point, don't think I'll support it, even if the neighborhood comes and doesn't seem to support it as they did. If they came and were overwhelmingly in favor, I might be persuaded. But thank you.
And I'm going to go back to Mr. Spencer. Do you have a response for that? No. Okay. Then it's Dr. Wu.
Thank you very much, Mr. President. First thing I'd like to do is I'd like to thank the people out in the audience. This is government at its finest. You hear a lot of time people say they have no control over the government, no input to the government. I think this is one reason why local government is most revered over any branch of government, because you can talk to us in the grocery store, you can talk to us in church. We're easily accessible. This was an awfully difficult issue at the beginning, and as I sat here and listened, it became easier and easier. My first question was, why in the world, open it? And somebody said, well, when you come to town, you come down Ninth Avenue, you're from out of town, the first thing you do is you see a bunch of barriers that say you can't come in. And then later I heard, well, people didn't want it because of traffic and whatever that's on the road. Well, from the way it's designed, the traffic going out can only, as you say, go around a U-turn, and the only traffic coming in will be coming in off of Ninth Avenue. But I digress. I'm using logical type of thinking. I talked to a resident of the area, Ann Reagan. I talked to a business owner, Bob Kerrigan. There's a gentleman in the audience who I won't mention his name because I didn't ask for permission, but at lunch he told me he's never been to a government meeting, but he's concerned about this. And I told him to come, and he's here. Now, if he wants to let you know who he is, he can do it, but he didn't tell me I could do it. He's waving his hand. And I said, this is your government. You've got to come down and tell us what you think. But the trigger that I got was when I talked to one of these people. They said, how many years ago did the post go up? 30 years ago? 32. 32 years ago. They were not asked when the post went up, and they were not asked when the post came down. And that was the trigger that made me completely change my mind. Because government is not supposed to do things without getting input from their citizens. Now, I'm not sitting here saying yes and no in the final analysis. What I'm saying is what bothers me is the folks most greatly impacted by this, it appears to me, were never asked how they felt. And that, more than whether it's good or whether it's bad, is what troubles me the very most, and the reason why I supported the excellent recommendation that Councilman Spencer made. Thank you, Mr. President.
Okay, thank you. Ms. Myers, then
Yes,
Mr. Johnson.
Thank you, Mr. President. Before I start, I would like to ask Mr. Garza a question, because I don't want to say this wrong. There are some federal standards that the city has adopted when it comes to traffic controls, and it's called the Model Traffic Device what?
Manual Uniform Traffic Control Devices.
Let me write that down so I won't forget.
MUTCD.
MUTCD. Okay. Thank you, Mr. Garza.
Alrighty.
I should know this by now because you've told me this so many times, because I've asked you so many times about traffic calming issues. And
it's a nice 3,000-page manual that if you need something to read on Sunday afternoon.
well, I have actually looked inside of it. First of all, I want to thank Mr. Spencer for making the motion he made, and I do support it. I feel very strongly that when neighborhoods are impacted, the government should take no action without fully informing a community and allowing the community to have input. I would be horrified if this happened to my neighborhood without input. Not only that, I do not feel the council was given adequate notice or adequate information. I've never seen this until recently. It was sent to me by a private citizen. And quite frankly, when I look at it, it just looks crazy. But then, too, I'm not a traffic engineer. The reason I asked Mr. Garza about the MUTCD is because I have brought up traffic calming issues many times regarding my neighborhood and other neighborhoods in my district. And I'm always told we have to study it. It has to meet certain warrants. And yet, the city comes before me today and asks me to support something, and there hasn't been a traffic study. I find that just incredible. There wasn't a traffic study that supported the roundabout down there on Club Street. You cannot, this should not be happening. If you have not done the proper traffic studies that comply with the model traffic regulations that we have, then you should not be bringing that to the city council. And I'm not going to support anything that hasn't been studied.
Ms. Myers, the motion is whether to have the public.
I know, but let me just finish why I'm going to support the motion. I'm going to support the motion to give the public the opportunity to weigh in on this, the people who are impacted, including the city council, in order to get more information and hopefully a traffic study out of it. And so I hope that what's going to come out of the meeting, if we have one, perhaps the mayor's office will decide not to go forward with this and we won't have a meeting. But I want a meeting in which all of the players, all of the stakeholders have an adequate opportunity to weigh in.
Okay, thank you. Mr. Spencer, Mr. Johnson wanted to speak to you.
Yeah, great. Thank you very much. I'm going to support Councilman Spencer's motion to have this more vetted. And I'd like to say that, you know, I've got persons on both sides of the fence on this one. I've got calls from folks that support this and then don't support this. And it's a tough decision, as many of them that come before us are. And, you know, the folks talk about residential, and there's folks there in Aragon, Romana, that would very much like to see this happen to reduce traffic in their neighborhoods. I remember a situation on Langley Avenue where that street was dead-ended, and the neighborhood was affected there because the street was going to continue on to Davis Highway. Very similar type situation. The neighbors that had to endure traffic going through their neighborhood all the time, of course, supported the opening of Langley Avenue to Davis, and so, you know, there's people that are affected that live in Aragon that have to endure the traffic that they might think that someone lives on Government that actually comes through their neighborhood. So I like to think that the people that lived on Government, if this did happen, they would use this entry to their home on Government Street instead of going to Romano. So again, I'm coming at this with an open mind. I'm looking forward to this public hearing and hearing what the citizens like to say. I've also like to say that there's business owners out there that think that are suffering out there, and that think that this might actually help their businesses with access and have people come to their businesses entering and exiting. So there's also business owners that we have to consider here at City Council that support it. I think we heard from 3 business owners today that actually support this. So it also was discussed that the roundabout, that there is not adequate land for that roundabout, that we'd have to actually do some fill and go into the bay, which I would have a problem with. But you know, all things considered, I'm just going to make mine very quick and not be redundant. I'm going to support Mr. Spencer's motion, and I look forward to having more public input. Thank you.
Okay, thank you. Mr. Spencer.
Thank you. All right, this truly is the crescendo, right?
Okay.
All right. There's a silver lining to this. Silver lining is I'm reminded of perhaps professional psychiatry or psychology dealing with dysfunction in families. It's got to come out in the open before it really is everyone recognizes that it's a serious issue and that it deserves attention by all family members. That's a silver lining to this, because let me tell you, 12 years ago, I was in the corner office on the 7th floor begging our city manager, then Tom Bonfield, to do something about that amputation at the end of East Government with 16 concrete-filled white bollards that has contributed to basically what may be described as an atrophy-type condition at the end of East Government. But again, I'm thrilled to have 61 plus other people that care about this, because I consider that particular what was supposed to be temporary surgery, it has developed decades of scar tissue, and it's obviously something that's hard to reapproach and revisit. But I am asking everyone that spoke to please participate in a very thoughtful doable solution. And I believe we can get there without needing to take more or push more land into the bay. But again, I had people Wendy, who walked in the heat of August for me on a campaign. I've had Camille, Virginia's out there. I mean, just about everyone that spoke, I would consider to be very much supporters of most of what I've been trying to do. So thanks again for feeling comfortable about speaking very candidly. Mr. President, could I have just 3 more minutes? All right. Because I think it's very important that today we memorialize an opportunity to move further with this and not just have all of you walk out of the room feeling like this is the end of this discussion, because I think it's just the beginning of the discussion. Again, 12 years ago, I tried to start this and could not get traction. I think Councilwoman Pratt did a very good job of reminding everyone that the CRA's strategy included one of the most important elements that Ray Gindraws tried to drum home as he visited time and time again, and that was, we've got to make the waterfront more accessible to the pedestrian. We've got to slow it down. So thank you, Councilwoman Pratt, for reminding everyone that that's part of the matrix, and that's why I want everyone to stay on board. Certainly, I want to say to Amber and Blake Rushing, please understand that you have just bought into a mixed-use neighborhood. You have not bought into Inverness in suburbia. You have bought into a mixed-use neighborhood that does enjoy the diversity and variety of different uses. And I am asking for your support and confidence that I can participate in, again, in a workshop that addresses the moderation of speed. Not the monitoring of speed, but the moderation of speed. Traffic is not synonymous with sin or bad. It's how effectively you deal with traffic. Most of the people that are living down here have chosen to be here in this downtown area because of its interesting variety, and I am a #1 crusader to protect, preserve, and enhance that. But I took copious notes. I have, again, confidence that just about everyone that spoke believes in the continued renaissance of downtown Pensacola. And finally, on a technical note, Kim, I want to point out, please understand that opening the grid more fairly and evenly distributes the traffic burden and traffic flow. That is a public street. It's not a private road, but let's look at how we can proportionally, again, distribute traffic safely, and most importantly, enhance and increase the streetscape in a way that invites more pedestrian activity. And I had just 2 weeks ago called for a meeting with Gulf Power. We met in the Seville area, and we have started what I hope will be an overall comprehensive study of the existing streetscapes and infrastructure of Seville, and this is just part of it. But I am a huge proponent of opening this up. I am a proponent of doing a great roundabout, and I hope that I can maintain support for that.
Well,
okay, thank you.
Since you addressed me?
No. If for some reason we need to on Thursday night, you have an opportunity to speak then. But our rules are quite specific. We've gone well over the time. I share the burden for allowing us to do that, but it's time for us to take a vote now. So, all in favor?
Aye. Aye.
Opposed? That passes unanimously. I want to thank all of you for coming. Okay.
Here we go.
We have specifically what that motion was there.